Greetings and salutations, wonderful people. My name is Scribe, and welcome to part 20 of the Elder Scrolls 1 Arena. In the last episode, we continued mapping out areas, and we're gonna keep doing that. I am very hyper. I am sorry. I just took my medication. I have ADHD pills, and that's right, your girlie is medicated. So basically, the unfortunate side effect is that I get very hyper from the moment I take them to about like a couple hours afterwards, and I can't sit still. So the alternative to this problem would obviously be to play the Oblivion remaster. However, I am trying to train myself for the upcoming eventual Morrowind and Oblivion playthrough, which means I am trying to get used to slow walking, because I know that for Oblivion, the original, there's a bit of a leveling problem that I have heard of, and so I am trying to address it by being very careful about what skills I do and do not use. This includes athletics, which, those of you who don't know, in the original Oblivion, you could not sprint. There was only regular running, and there was walking. So it was basically just like Morrowind. So this means that if I were to move at a reasonable pace for a, say, Skyrim, or in this case, Arena or Daggerfall, I would be leveling athletics, which is not a bad thing until you consider that enemies scale in level, and I am a mage, so the statistics that athletics boosts are not the statistics I need boosted. So I'm trying to train myself, and so walking to Skingrad is really, really boring. So I thought, oh hey, I could put on like a podcast or music or something, but unfortunately that's still too boring for me. So I figured, hey, why not talk to myself for like half an hour, and see how that goes. So unfortunately you're going to be dealing with this for a little bit. Sorry. Okay, bird touch. Burn the spiders. Okay, there we go. So I intend to not try to be too insane, but I make no promises. So you're just gonna have to bear with me on that. Magic nap. There we go. So I am very curious as to how this is going to function. What the heck is that? You know what? I am not gonna ask questions. I'm just gonna keep mapping this area out. I'm gonna keep murdering spiders, and I am using magic nap still, aren't I? Yes, I am. Okay, so I'm trying. But yes, I am. I also need to record, and I need to edit part 19, because I didn't edit it in time, and even without like a thumbnail or anything, because my friend Dark makes some thumbnails. Even without that, I still could have published a video. I just didn't, because I didn't edit it, and that was my fault. I should be editing it now, but again, I can't sit still properly, and sitting through and listening to my voice for close to an hour while I try to actually edit and put in like interesting things in the video instead of just raw gameplay, which I have been doing, which is fine. You guys aren't complaining. It's just that I also feel like I should be putting in more effort. So I can't do that right now. So I thought, okay, why don't we just ignore my problems and just keep recording videos, because that, surely making more things for me to edit will fix the problem. In all likelihood, it probably will, because it means I can just mass record, and not mass record, but like I can edit a couple videos, and then I'll have like a surplus again, because I was doing really good, but then my surplus ran out because I couldn't find a window time, because I have never seen that sprite before. Who are you, sir? I punch you to death. Is that an option? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You know, I'm impressed I'm actually hitting this guy. I completely forgot what I was talking about. Oh yeah, I can record, and I can have a surplus. I might record 2 episodes, and then I'll have 3 episodes. So I'll have the 1 episode on Monday, and then I'll have the other episode on Friday, and then I'll have the next episode that's supposed to be due on Monday, and then after tomorrow, I can record another one, and keep going. The main downside to that is just it means that I would be a little bit slow to answering questions, which is unfortunate, but it's okay. I will do my best. Can you please die, sir? I have punched you like a billion times. Why are you like this? Sir? 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 It is time to die. You know, there is a mild problem here in that I am only doing, like, what, 2 damage? Something like that? 2 damage a hit? Oh, okay. Alright, I didn't want to do this, but you leave me no choice. There we go. What are you? A barbarian? Oh, that explains why you're so durable. Alright, we can put our fists away. Well, that means we need to do a rest attempt right quick. Until fully healed. Oh, there's enemies nearby, are there? How am I not? You know what? I keep forgetting that... This is the turn ability. There we go. And then we want Burn Touch and Dead. Okay. We're gonna save. Oh wait, hang on. Can I rest again? Cool. We're gonna save again, and then we're gonna do a rest attempt. I'm trying to get more in the habit of doing this because I will not have access to the potions I do in Daggerfall, which means that I'm going to have to rely on resting, which I don't like in the slightest. However, it is what it is, so we're gonna have to make do. So anyway, so yes, I will be doing my best. The funny thing that I didn't realize is I've kind of been neglecting some obvious talking points throughout this series, which is, of course, the provinces I'm in. Because, you know, this is the only game, aside from Elder Scrolls Online, where you can visit every single province in Tamriel. In Daggerfall, you only get to be in part of Hammerfell and in High Rock. In the third game, you are entirely island locked to Vardenfell. There is one city in the mainland you get to go to, and of course with mods, people, like Tamriel Rebuilt for example, people are trying to make it so that it is the entirety of Morrowind and eventually branch out into other places like Skyrim and Oblivion and stuff, which I wonder how long that project's gonna take. And then in Oblivion, it's entirely in the Imperial Province. So, and then obviously Skyrim is completely Skyrim. So how do you... There we go. So how do you go about, talking about these? I was going to do some research into Hammerfell, but unfortunately, I kind of don't... I kind of don't have any lore that I can think of for Hammerfell. Actually, I have a couple. So the main thing with Hammerfell is that they believe that they are from a place called Yakuta. Yakuta is an island, or it was a continent. Was it a continent? It might have been an archipelago. I might actually be wrong. But anyway, it was a far off land, and it was full of seafarers and swordsmen and all sorts of cool stuff. And so they have a thing with swords. So the thing with the Redguards is that each of the members, each of the races have like their thing that they're like known for. So like Nords, for example, are known for having a lot of they're known for like the Thuum, they're known for like axes, they're known for lycanthropy and other such things. That was like their thing, was what the Nords were. It was werewolves, it was axes, and other stuff. And of course the Altmer, their whole thing is magic, and Wood Elves or Bosmer, their whole thing is archery. Well, for the Redguards, their whole thing is swords. They have this really special style of fighting in the lore where they dual wield swords. So that's their whole thing, and they have an equivalent legend to, like, for example, like the Nords in their Dragonborn legend, and that is called sword singers. I believe they have like an actual like official term, like accurate to like a Redguard term, but I'm pretty sure the main thing is they are called sword singers. So their whole thing is sword singers. So they can do, I think it's like they can summon like basically spectral swords, or like summon blades that they can fight with, and they're like really, really good swordsmen. So from, I believe, I don't know if they fixed it in Daggerfall, but I know that in oh hello, I know that in like Morrowind and onwards, they have the highest long blade skill in the game. That's like their whole thing, is they're good at long blade, or swords, like actually using long swords. And they use what are called scimitars, although you could also call them sabers or other such things, but that's what they use. And it's really cool that they can do that. And so you may be wondering the Redguard's relationship with magic. They don't really have one. They kind of don't like magic because they think that magic is spoopy and it's dishonorable, and it's for cowards and backstabbers and all sorts of things. They do respect destruction magic, because obviously it's the basic magic option, throwing a fireball. I don't know their feelings on restoration, but I know that they really don't like conjuration and illusion. That those are like the two that they really hate, which is unfortunate for me because I really like conjuration. So that's their whole deal. So they are really good swordsmen. They are known for being awesome and good at swords and stuff. And they also are known for seafaring because they basically have pirates, which is really cool. Redguards are also the only race, at least officially, like obviously you can have certain races that have dark skin, but the Redguards are primarily known for their dark skin. So that's their thing. What the hell? Okay. What is in here? Is there like aha! There's a key. I knew there was a reason we were in here. A diamond key. Wait, hang on. Is there one over here? No. Alright, sweet. I didn't even realize I needed to do that, but alas, here we are. Okay, so that's sort of the Redguards thing. They live in a kind of mix of a sort of like arid area and a desert. They have a bit of a desert to them. It's not like an elsewhere desert, but it is still a desert. So that is kind of all I know from the top of my head about the Redguards. I will totally research more into their culture, their customs and stuff. I know that most of it is in the Elder Scrolls Adventures Redguard, which was the first game that Todd Howard directed for the Elder Scrolls, as far as I am aware. But that one's pretty cool. So that's one of them. And then the second one we went to was Skyrim. So because I am a nerd and we aren't at the 5th game yet where I get to just talk about Nord culture a lot and info dump, let's talk about Skyrim very briefly for those of you who somehow don't know about Skyrim more. So according to legend, the Nords believe that they come from a land called Altmer, which is a continent, a frozen wasteland that is basically uninhabitable now. And they came from Altmer when it was, filled with civil war and all that, and they went to Skyrim. So they believe. Okay, then are you just determined to be... I know you're in here. There you are. So, that is what they believe. That is where they believe they come from. So, the Nords are a very strong, very hardy race. They are they are born warriors. That is their thing, is that they are very good warriors, and they, of course, have adapted themselves to survive the frost. As a result, every version of the Nords, from Arena to Skyrim, all have a resistance to frost damage. In Morrowind, I believe they also add in that they have like shock resistance too, which I think is funny. But they believe that they are the children of Kinnereth, that Kinnereth is kind of like their patron god. So they venerate Kinnereth, who they call Kine, and they have other gods too. They have Shor, who is the Lord of the Dead, specifically the Hallowed Dead. He is a warrior god. He is the king god, and he rules over a land called Sovngarde, which is a place that people get to go to if they prove that they are honorable warriors, that they died a good death. They get to go to Sovngarde, which is basically Valhalla. So the Nords, as a result, are a very warrior culture. From what we understand in the Guide to the Empire, the Nords lived in Skyrim, which was this wasteland, like not quite like full-on wasteland, but it was a inhospitable, frozen environment, and all of their civilization was built around something called a longhouse, which is this big place, akin to like a mead hall, basically. So they would like build everything around mead halls. Mead was very important to them. Ale was very important to them. And they were also considered to be kind of like a werewolf place. The way they describe it is it is this inhospitable frozen place with mead halls and a ton of werewolves, and the people would like run around and they would like do war with each other, and they were really strong and scary. And of course the voice is part of their culture, so they believe that Kinnereth blessed them with the voice, with the Thu'um, which is how they are able to use this kind of special magic to project and alter the world by using the voice. So because of this, Nords have a sort of like they respected wizards because they believed them to be very cunning. They even had a god of magic, Junal, who is of course the Nordic version of Julianos. And so they had Kine, who was Kinnereth. They had Shor, who was the sort of the king of man, the god of men. They had Junal, who was the god of wisdom and poetry and stuff like that. And they had and they had other gods too. They had Mara, the goddess of love. They also had some people that were less than enthused. They had gods like Hermamora, who you may recognize that name as Hermaeus Mora, the eldritch god of knowledge and keeper of secrets. So they had Daedra still. They had different gods they venerated. Their Akatosh equivalent was a god named Alduin, who was the god of time, and he was the destroyer. He was scary, and the Nords didn't like him because he was this terrifying dragon. And the Nords obviously had a very bad relationship with the dragons. For a long time, they were ruled by dragons, and they were oppressed, and they didn't like it, and they asked for help. They begged for help, and Kinnereth, in response, gave them the voice. That's why they are so venerating of Kinnereth, because she is their god. She is the one who breathed life into them. She is the one who gives them the voice to fight back and gain freedom. She is the one who, she is the bitter cold wind, in a way. She is the coldness personified. And she is also the wild. She's the wildlife. So there's very few things that is not attached to Kinnereth, unless it is attached to another god. So for the Nords, that is their culture. They're a warrior culture. They are warriors. They are skalds, poets. They are this fascinating culture. So that's kind of like the Nords, and you'll learn more detail about how Nordic culture kind of operates in Skyrim, although it is different than how it is relayed in the Pocket Guide to the Empire. But that's still part of it. So the Bosmer, which I'm also going to be talking about because we are in Valenwood, they are a people who are one of the elven races. The orcs are also considered to be one of the elven races now, as they are called Orsmer. So the Bosmer's whole deal is that they are following something called the Green Pact, which is a pact they made with Valenwood, with nature. And it is basically that they will not harm the trees there. They do not use the trees of Valenwood for anything. They learned how to use magic to make their homes in the trees by not hurting the trees, but by changing the trees. So in a way, you could say that they are very in tune with alteration magic in a way. And they do not eat plants, I believe. I believe it is that they are pretty much entirely carnivores, and they are also cannibals, because anything they kill, they have to eat. So if they kill somebody, they need to eat them. That is part of the Green Pact. So this means that if a Bosmer has to get in a war every single person they kill, they have to eat. This is not up for debate if you're a follower of the Green Pact. This is law, which I believe is one of the explanations for why the Bosmer don't exactly always go to war, because, you know, if they're looking at somebody and they see you and they're like, oh, I have to kill you, they don't get to just, you know, kill you and then drop you. They have to also figure out what wine will best pair with you. So, if they're even allowed to drink wine. So, that's the Bosmer's deal. So you may be wondering why it does not represent this in this game. Why do the cities look so modernized? Well, the answer is very simple. They hadn't thought of this yet. Most of the lore I am describing to you is lore that was not determined.
You were a fool to confront me, and now have paid the ultimate price.
Beans. I haven't done that in a while. Did I save beforehand? Oh, thank God. So, most of this lore was not actually decided until much later. Specifically, a lot of the lore was determined by a man named Michael Kirkbride. So, Michael Kirkbride is the guy who he made Morrowind's lore. He made a lot of lore for the Imperial City, basically the entire world of Tamriel. He added onto it. I won't say he created the world of Tamriel, because a lot of you know, the gods and other, you know, inventions were not his creation, but he was one of the people who was, and I love this name, who were on the Council of Wisdom, which is basically, they were a bunch of people who wrote a lot of lore during Daggerfall, and they got honored after the fact by having their names turned into gods. So, for example, Julianos is actually Julian LeFay. Same with the gods Mara and Dibella. They were all part of the Council of Wisdom. They were lore crafters. It was a group of men and women coming together to create the world that I have fallen in love with since I first played Skyrim. And I think that's really neat. So, but Kirkbride is one of the most famous ones. He, like I said, he is the one who kind of made the lore for... Why is this the way it is? Am I stuck here now? No, of course not. I'm not stuck here. I need to look to the right. So, he's one of the big ones. So that's a bit of Valenwood, that's a bit of Hammerfell, and it's quite a lot of Skyrim. So if you're interested in more lore, and you're willing to hear it, if it isn't from me, I highly recommend that you look up Shoddycast, because they, I don't know if it's still up on YouTube, but I hope it is, they did a series on both Fallout and the Elder Scrolls, where they go through the lore and do different stuff, and it's fantastic. I cannot recommend it enough. I know that their Fallout series is probably more popular, but the Elder Scrolls one is really good too. You can also look up information of lore on the unofficial Elder Scrolls pages, which is the definitive wiki for Elder Scrolls. If you want to know more about Arena, more about Oblivion, Morrowind, Skyrim, don't use fandom, use the unofficial Elder Scrolls pages. You will save yourself a massive headache. So, with that being said, you may be thinking, well, you've explained Skyrim. You've explained Valenwood. You've explained Redguard, or not Redguard, Hammerfell. But what about our character's home? What about Caetheryn's home of the Somerset Isles? Well, this one I know the most about because the Altmer are my favorite race in in the Elder Scrolls. I mean, it's also kind of my favorite in Skyrim, but it is certainly my favorite in the Elder Scrolls in general. So what about the Altmer? Well, the Altmer descend from a people known as the Aldmer, A-L-D-M-E-R, instead of A-L-T-M-E-R. So they believe themselves to be the most authentic version of the original elves. And they have done this through things like selective breeding and very careful things like that. That is their whole thing, is they want to remain what they were. They're a very naturally conservative sort of people. Now, I'm going to put a disclaimer here. We don't fully know how much of what I just said is accurate, because the thing about the Elder Scrolls is a lot of the books are not entirely reliable, because history is not always 100% reliable. So what this means is, it is very possible that what I just said about them using selective breeding and essentially eugenics might not be true. And the only way we will know for certain is if we get a game centered on the Somerset Isles, set there, that sets the record straight. Because, for example, what I just told you, that Skyrim was this frozen wasteland, and it was full of meat holes and werewolves. If you've played Skyrim, you know that is not necessarily the case. So, is it different because it's set 200 years after that pocket guide was written? Or is it different because the pocket guide is not 100% accurate? We don't know. And that's fascinating, isn't it? So, is it infuriating for me because I like knowing lore? Yes, but is it wonderful in building immersion? Absolutely. It is fantastic. So, the Altmer are, from what we understand, a rather conservative people. They are very long-lived, and they are the ones that resent being immortal the most, because in their eyes, what happened was nothing short of a betrayal. Because for them, they used to be something called Atada. They were spirits, divine spirits, basically. These weak divine spirits who were related to the Aedra, which is a elven word meaning our ancestors. Daedra is a word meaning not our ancestors. So basically it is determining who was part of the creation of Nirn, which is the planet that we are on, and who was not. So this is coupled with the creation myth of the Altmer, which is that a god named Lorcan tricked or convinced the gods to create Nirn. And in the process, the gods gave up most of their power, and those who were weak, like the Atada, who came together to make it, they just became mortal. So the Altmer believe that they are descended from basically gods, and that they used to be immortal. They used to be great, and now they're not. And they hate Lorcan for it. So this can kind of explain why elvish and man relations are so awful, because the mortals venerate Lorcan, the men do, and the elves do not. The elves don't like it one bit. They are here against their will, and they hate it. So this goes into the way that Altmer society has developed, because originally they venerated all of their ancestors. This includes their, actual ancestor spirits, which you may think is a very dark elf thing to do, but it likely started with the Altmer. So eventually it got to a point where they would just start worshipping the big ones. I'm talking Akatosh, which they revere as Auriel. I'm talking Mara. I'm talking Stendar, etc. So they also have other gods. They have gods like Trinimac, who is the sort of champion of Auriel. They have Magnus, who they view as the grand architect of Nirn and basically the god of magic, because he is the sun. And others like Xerxes, which you may remember from previous episodes in Arena, that is the guy who made the Ogma Infinium, which is the book we used to max out our personality. So you can see how it kind of functions. They're very, they're very venerating of the past. They're very traditional. They're very organized, and they're very dedicated. If a Altmer decides that they are going to be an artist, they will dedicate centuries to their craft. They will make it the most beautiful thing ever. Altmer never have to anything. That is a very important thing to understand about their culture, is that the Altmer do not have to anything. If a Altmer is going to be a warrior, they are going to make sure that they are going to be better than the Redguards or the Nords. If an Altmer is going to be a painter, see what I just said. If an Altmer is going to be a mage, they are going to go full in it, and they should go full in it with mages, because Altmer are the best mages, naturally. So this continues with, how do I get access to this room? Because I've almost mapped everything out, and I am pretty sure that what we're looking for is in here. I don't even know how long it's been. It could be an hour for all I know. I would apologize, but I mean, a lot of the viewers here explain that they watch this while they're folding laundry or doing other tasks, so I mean, it's not like this video won't get watched. There is a niche use for this. People have video essays are popular for a reason. This is how we get access here. All right, cool. Now we can map out the rest of this. So the Altmer, that's kind of how they are. There are some Altmer who are rather progressive, who do believe that they should be doing different things, that they should be doing more, that they should have more freedom, less strictness, more openness with outsiders, and these guys are not liked very much. Every time there is Altmer discourse, you have to understand that usually what happens is The society does not change, nothing happens, and instead, all that gets done is those people who are dissatisfied leave the Somerset Isles and then go off and turn into a completely different type of elf. I don't know if that's what happened with the Bosmer, but I'm pretty sure it was. There are some people who theorize that that is what happened with the Khajiit and the Argonians, although the Argonians and the Khajiit disagree that they are not elves. Pelena Whitestrike made that particular mistake. Oh, did he? And obviously that is what happened to the orcs. That is what happened. Okay, well, it technically didn't happen to the orcs. The orcs happened a different way, but that's, I mean, they're still, you know, former Altmer. And that's what happened to the Chimer and the Dunmer. So that means that the Altmer are all that's left. However, because every people have a new province now, this means there's basically no places left for the dissenting Altmer to go. So they're basically stuck there. They have to do something about it because they can't just keep running anymore. And this is what was happening in Oblivion, I believe. This was actually happening, and I believe it's still happening in Skyrim, although it is way worse for them, let me tell you that much. Do keep in mind that just because there is rampant racism in the Elder Scrolls, and it started out as a very Planet of Hats situation, that does not mean it stayed that way. The characters, the races, they have changed, they have evolved, they have become much richer and much deeper in lore, and they are different. And it's an interesting thing. And the Altmer are no exception. A big part of it is that we have not really gotten a full glimpse of the Altmer yet. Now, I say this as somebody who has not gotten very far in ESO. I played maybe the tutorial of the Morrowind expansion and a couple other things, but other than that, I have basically not played deep into ESO. So maybe they have fleshed out the Altmer. Maybe they have made them into a much more sympathetic people, because for a lot of people, because we started with Skyrim, we don't like the Altmer because we associate them with the Thalmor, the Thalmor, I should say, the Thalmor, or Thalmor. We don't like the Thalmor because they're jerks, and they're awful people, and they are basically pretty much unambiguously the bad guys. So we don't like them. So why would we like the Altmer? Because that's all they are. That's all we know that they are. Every single Altmer that we see that isn't just a normal horse guy or the girls at Radiant Raiment is the Thalmor. So there's not a lot of sympathy there. But they're not a monolith. And that is why I have made Caetheryn the type of character that she is. She is not a monolith. She is not the type of person who is going to, be like, things were better in the Imperial City before, or things were better in Cyrodiil before those dang humans came in and killed all the aliens. Because first of all, the Altmer would hate the aliens because they don't worship the divines, they worship Daedra. And so more than likely, while they didn't probably like the humans worship the divines. So they were infinitely more sympathetic for those guys than they were anybody else. And also because she just doesn't feel that way. You can make a different character. I did need that diamond key. Fantastic. What the heck is this? What is this? Oh, it's the gem I need. You have found the jewel, the so-called Heart of Selene, that will protect the people of Eldenroot. You have only to bring it to the ruler there. Excellent. So we're gonna check if there's anything here. There is not. Alright, we're free to leave. Okay. So if you want to leave really quickly, it's very simple. You just head east here, drop down the hole. That's the wrong hole. You're gonna drop down one of these holes. Here we go. This is the right one, I think. Is it? This is the right one. So you're gonna drop down this one. You're gonna take a right. You're gonna take a, there you go, and then you're gonna go up here. And then lo and behold, the entrance is right here. There's the next door. And then if you want to leave, again, very simple. We're just gonna leave this little patch here. And go from there. Again, I apologize if this turns out to be a long video. I just kind of really wanted to ramble about Elder Scrolls lore because it's really fascinating and I really like it. This is the game series that really turned me into somebody who is just a massive lover of lore and world building. This was the pipeline that led me down things like Dark Souls and Elden Ring lore videos. But the Altmer are different. They're not all the same. A lot of them are even really nice. Like the Sijic Order is pretty cool from what we understand. They're just kind of there. They just hang out. They like advising people. They like giving knowledge. They're not all bad. And some of them are really lovely. Okay, so yeah, and definitely because our protagonist is an Altmer, hopefully that will help soften the people's opinions on these individuals. Because they do think that okay, I will say one thing, a lot of them do think they are superior. The problem is, in many cases, they are kind of correct. Like, I don't mean to be like that, I really don't, but the problem is they are, aside from the Argonians, they are basically the most resistant to disease. In, like, the beginning games, they were immune to paralysis. They have the most magicka out of anyone. And most of their architecture and culture got cribbed by the other races. Like, it's a big thing that basically the Imperial culture as a whole was heavily inspired by Altmeri culture. Like, the 9 divines, 8 of those, okay, well, like, most of those come from Altmer, from the Altmer. It's wonderful. Anyway, I and my people owe a debt we cannot begin to pay, Caetheryn. You have given us a new hope, and for that we are eternally grateful. Come and stand before me. Queen Yolandra gently unrolls an ancient scroll, and then takes a light feather pen and inscribes the location of the Elden Grove, somewhere in the Valenwood province, onto your map. Sick. We love that. Alright, moving on. So, now, we can go to Elden Grove. I'm going to do a quick time check, so I will see you in a few seconds. Hey, what do you know? It wasn't an hour and a half. Excellent. Alright. I think that's where I'm going to end this video. I can feel my focus returning. I can feel my energy has been expended by just info dumping about Elder Scrolls lore. Thank you for indulging me, and I will see you in the next episode, part 21, when we go into the Elden Grove. Not to be confused with the Elden Ring. Have a good one. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Bye-bye!